Artillery from the 53rd Mechanized Brigade of Ukraine. 53rd Mechanized Brigade. Photo after losing hundreds of armored vehicles. Direct attacks on Ukrainian positions in and around Avdiivka, Ukraine's eastern Donbas region. Russian armed forces are turning to dismounted infantry attacks. Tactically speaking, this isn't a bad idea at all. Ukrainian brigades switched from mounted to dismounted assaults during their counteroffensive in southern Ukraine this summer, ultimately advancing 10 or a dozen miles along at least two major axes. But infantry attacks can be risky when the enemy is in trenches. The weather is wet, cold, and perhaps worst of all, when foot soldiers lack good weather artillery support. Yes, Russian Air Force is dropping more Cluster S on Avdiivka and also dropping heavier Glide S. However, it is not clear whether the Air Force coordinated these attacks with infantry. Russian brigades and regiments that switched to horseless attacks without supporting these attacks may have condemned thousands of infantrymen to die on foot rather than with their vehicles. As the Ukrainian counteroffensive in Zaporozhye and Donetsk Oblasts slowed, Russian forces first attacked Avdiivka in mid-October. The Kremlin's goal is clear: to capture Ukrainian stronghold just a few kilometers from city Donetsk, center of Russian occupation surrounding eastern region. Brigades of the 2nd Combined Arms Army, other Russian field armies, launched company and battalion-sized attacks on Avdiivka over days, weeks. Repulsed by mines, artillery, and drones, the brigades quickly directed their attacks towards Avdiivka's flanks. In response, Ukrainian General Staff deployed 47th Brigade northern flank of Avdiivka, 53rd Mechanized Brigade to southern flank, and at least support tired 110th Brigade, which garrisoned alongside 47th and 53rd. He commanded 2 artillery brigades. Avdiivka itself has been without relief for more than a year. The land around Avdiivka consists mostly of flat fields laced with woodlands and railways, overlooked to the north by a towering, barren industrial waste dump next to a sprawling coking plant. There aren't many covers. Just reaching a starting point for an attack on Ukrainian positions requires the Russians to wage a melee-long fight with Ukrainian drones and artillery. Russian vehicle losses were staggering in the first few weeks, when the attacks were largely vehicle-borne. Meanwhile, vehicle losses in Ukraine were in the low double digits. The ministry added that Russia's staggering losses were likely due to a combination of the relative effectiveness of Ukraine's modern handheld unarmored weapons, mines, uncrewed aircraft-launched munitions and precision artillery systems in the Battle of Avdiivka. Both sides fired cluster munitions at each other. But these munitions work best against an exposed force. Those who are exposed in and around Avdiivka are Russians. Even Russia, which has large reserves of old Cold War vehicles, cannot afford